94.3 WYBC, the rhythm of the city. This is the Electric Drum. I'm Juan Castillo. And this morning we have in the studio Tanya E. Randall. She's from Tanya E. Randall's Productions in Hamden, Connecticut. And she's got a play coming up, Real Man's Love in a Woman's World, November 8th at 8 p.m. at the Hamden's Veterans Memorial Auditorium at the Hamden Middle School. But we're going to talk about her life and how she's gotten involved with this play and just her life period. How you doing?
Good. Good morning. How are you?
All right. Very good. Very good. Now, are you from the area?
I am from the area. I live in Hamden, Connecticut.
Okay. All right. Now, did you grow up here?
I grew up in Connecticut. I was born in New York and then later on moved here to Connecticut and spent most of my childhood here in Connecticut, going to elementary, middle school, high school here.
Okay, wonderful. So what school did you go to?
Well, I started out at Dwight School, Timothy Dwight School.
Yes.
Then went on to Troop Middle School. And then from there, I wanted to go with everybody else to Hill House and Cross, but my parents sent me to Co-op High School because they saw that I was very much interested in the arts.
Okay.
Yes.
So who were some of your mentors during that period of time?
Well, believe it or not, during that time, there's one teacher that always sticks with me, Constance Cook. And she was there at Timothy Dwight. And she was such a stickler, even in Scranton School, because she kind of followed over there. But she was a stickler with my writing. And I think when I think back and look over that, she played an intricate part because there were things sometimes that I would write. And she said, you can dig deeper. You know, that's just the surface of it. Dig a little bit deeper. And this is in 3rd, 4th, and 5th grade.
Wow.
You know, so even at that point there, she played an intricate part in my life at that time.
And so, I mean, so you had a very early, you thinking about writing.
Yes.
So that's a wonderful thing.
Yes.
And so tell me in terms of, your career, right?
Yes.
How did Co-op kind of prepare you for that, and talk about your career?
Co-op was definitely a very intricate start, because when I got to Co-op, I didn't think they had anything to offer until I got into the theater department. Mm-hmm. And when I got into theater, I remember my theater teacher, I can't remember her name off the top of my brain right now, but she had us writing short stories. And she said, we're going to work on creating a short story from the beginning to the end. And we're going to talk about how you produce, a story, how you create a story, how you tell a complete story, and how you gather the attention of your audience. And when she said that, something triggered in me, because I remember my grandmother, who just passed about 2 years ago. She was probably one of the most inspirational oratory storytellers for myself. She could recite the Bible. She could just tell us about different Langston Hughes. I mean, she was just so expressive in reciting things, and she would sit all the grandkids around. It just blew my mind, even seeing her and hearing her at that time. So the moment that drama teacher said that to me, it went back quickly to my grandmother, and I just immediately I drew in and I just started writing. And
so how about acting? Did you kind of delve in that a little bit?
I did. It's so funny. Most people that would hear this, they remember the first play that I wrote, and I starred in it. I thought I was the lousiest actress, but it was my own. So, I kind of made it, my own. But I didn't see myself in the acting. I always saw myself behind the scenes and creating a masterpiece for someone else,
right,
to kind of act it out.
Well, we got to know our niche, right?
Oh, absolutely. I definitely learned mine at that point.
Right.
I learned it.
So after Co-op, what did you do?
After Co-op, I ended up actually going into a bunch of other different fields, which had nothing to do with writing at all. But I always had that in the background, because I didn't realize all of the writings that I had wrote from the time I was a teenager up until the time that I actually started working at my parents' church. And I remember doing one of my first plays there that I wrote to the completion for the choir there. They knew that I had done writings, and they were interested in seeing, something manifested on the stage that they could be a part of. And I think at that point there, from going into the school system, I worked at West Hills Middle School. From working at West Hills Middle School, I ended up going into the Department of Corrections and working in the school there. And it was just always something educational wise, something to teach and help instruct. So that was always my niche there. And even when I got to the church working for my parents at Wayfair Ministries, I started, working with a group of, young people there and working with some of the adults and kind of, just putting together little short performances.
Right. And let's talk about the Department of Corrections. Now, you taught at one of the institutions?
Whaley Avenue.
Okay.
Yes.
Well, what was that experience like?
It was different.
Okay.
It was very different. I worked in the school department, and what it did, for myself, because they were, learning their GED, they were, going through reading and writing, those different skills. But I always found myself in that skill set of just writing stories. And I even, got the opportunity through some of the men that would come through there just to hear some of the things that they had gone through. And I was actually able to put that, onto paper.
Right.
And it was a different experience for me because when you look at, the different community, being a county jail, put it that way, you have a lot of different people that come in through different stages. So I was able to just share with them, some of the things that I was doing as far as writing, as far as educational wise, kind of getting them out there, and they weren't afraid to tell me their stories and share, various things with me.
From that experience, I mean, we got the revolving door syndrome that people talk about all the time.
Yes.
And I'm quite sure you see some leave and come back.
Yes.
Right. What's from your perspective? What do we do? What do we do about that?
I'm going to tell you when I first my heart went out, and there was days that I would go home crying,
Yes.
because you want a solution.
Yes.
And I believe that's one of the reasons why I'm so passionate about my writings and passionate about finding, something that would draw people into another arena, that they don't have to settle for just the typical. A lot of the things that I heard some of the young men say is, well, there's nothing out there, and then when I get out there, there's always these false hopes and there's nothing for me to tap into to do. So I end up back here. And for myself, being a creator of bringing, things to life through words, on page, most people don't believe that they have a gift or talent within them that they can bring out to produce. They're looking, if I don't have the $15, $20 job an hour, that, I'm a failure. You could start out at McDonald's if that's the best thing you can do right there to get you from off the street from not going through another revolving door. But my biggest thing I was telling, a lot of the men there, you don't have to keep the same system going over and over again. You have the ability to change that arena that you want to get yourself from up out of. And sometimes it takes, tapping into yourself and seeing what's within you. Even if it's the smallest thing, you got to start somewhere.
And, first of all, I want to let my community know that I'm speaking with Tanya E. Randall of Tanya E. Randall Productions. She's got an upcoming stage play. She's a writer. It's called A Real Man's Love in a Woman's World. It's happening on November 8th at 8 p.m. at Hamden's Memorial Auditorium at the Hamden Middle School. And we've been talking about her life and how she loved to write as a young person. She went to co-op and then she, left co-op and, had numerous jobs. But one in particular, we're just talking about, she worked at the Whaley Correctional Center, Whaley Avenue Correctional Center, where she worked with inmates, trying to get their GEDs in the school there. So, I mean, the church,
yes,
very important in your life.
Very important.
Right. And, there's folks that say, look, the church should be doing more, right? Your church did that.
Yes.
Has always been doing stuff in the community.
Yes.
Talk about your church. Talk about your pastor.
Yes, I love my pastors, who are also my parents, Apostle Eugene and Pastor Diane Brunson of the Wayfair Ministries in Hamden, Connecticut. Yes. And I love, I'm not being partial because they're my parents, but I love Wayfair Ministries. And one of the great reasons why I love Wayfair Ministries is because Apostle Brunson is in the trenches. He's in the trenches, and he's not just there just to show up if something tragic happens, but he's there on a day-to-day basis, and I thank God that he's gained the respect of those within the communities, that even when people are doing bad, he finds a way to creatively tell you that you can still make it, in the process of whatever it is that you're encountering at that moment. And his passion is young men, to never let another man go through what you yourself have experienced in life. And I think that plays a big part in the life of, young men as well as young women, because sometimes people lose hope and they feel that the church is just what it is, the church, this big building that, if I'm not right, I can't go in, I can't, find myself there. But we bring the church to the street. streets, because if they don't see us, they'll never know that there's a real God that is able to change their real present situation.
And I know quite a few ex-offenders, who have done extremely well,
yes,
working through your programs
yes,
at the church, and and that's what it's all about. So you decide that you're going to take these writings to another level.
Yes.
So how did that happen, and when did that happen?
Well, it was so amazing. 2011. I had an idea, just a brainiac idea. I said, I sat down one night and I just opened up my script book and I just started writing. And while I'm writing, I'm saying, wow, I said, this sounds phenomenal. But I had, a lot of people laughing when I tell this story over and over again. I sat there and I know that it was a God-given season for myself, because in 2 weeks' time, I'm sitting in my room and my husband's looking at me thinking that I'm crazy. I'm hearing all these different voices and characters, and I'm seeing costumes, and stage sets in my mind, but I'm writing and writing and writing. And when I was done, I had a full script. And my first production in 2011, You Can Make It Through This, I didn't think that I was going to make it through that after it was, all written and done. But after I wrote it, I asked God, I said, what do you want me to do with this? And the first thing he said, launch it out there. And I'm saying, okay, now I know I wrote this, but who's going to step out on this right now? And he said, go to your church. You start right there. And I did a casting call right inside, my own ministry, and being there at the church. I thank God for Wayfair Ministries and the people there. As soon as I put the casting call out, I sat there that first day and people just started swarming in. They started coming in, the members, my family. I thank God I have a very creative family, very talented family, singing, playing music, all the different, aspects of what is needed to produce a great stage play. And when the people came out, I was just floored. I couldn't believe it. I cried probably the first 2 rehearsals. And after that, I watched the people bring something that was so passionate to my heart to life from off the pages. It was unbelievable.
That's fantastic.
Yeah.
So a real man's love in a woman's world.
Yes. Yes.
I mean, what was the basis for this?
The basis, it's so funny. And when I look at it, I realized a few weeks ago that a lot of these plays that I've written, some of them have a little bit of my life tied up in it somewhere. Yes. And when I started writing A Real Man's Love in a Woman's World, I thought about all the hurts that women go through as far as relationships are concerned. And a lot of times women tend to bring hurts into new relationships, or they cause it to hold them back from not having a future relationship or another shot or another chance at love. So through these characters, it's absolutely hilarious, because you get to see, what men experience on one end from really trying to love a woman, and that woman shutting them out, to the flip side of a woman who really wants love but is afraid to reach out again to actually experience, a real type of love from a real man. And then we have, the little twist in there where some men think that they know what real love is because of what they've seen or because of what they've been taught or what they know. But, you come to find out that it's not the real love that you really thought it was.
Right. Sounds interesting. It sounds like it's going to be very entertaining.
Very entertaining. Very comical.
Yes. Yes, because we do have humor in our lives, don't we?
Yes.
So before you leave,
yes.
I do a thing called Give and Go.
Yes.
I'm going to say something, and the first thing that comes to your mind. Okay. All right. So who's your favorite playwright?
Jacarius Johnson.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah, that's great.
Yes.
Favorite meal?
Anybody that's listening to this and knows me right now know I love to eat.
Right.
But my favorite meal is probably fried chicken, black eyed peas with okra.
Oh, you're making me hungry.
Yes. I'm a good Southern country eater. I love to eat.
So what's your favorite hymn at church? When the apostle starts playing the drums.
On the drums and on that bass
right.
guitar.
That's right.
And believe me, he jumps up there all the time. I would probably say, lead me, oh Lord. And you know, I say that because it's so dear to me, because I know even in this, I wouldn't be able to do any of this if I didn't have the leading of my Savior. And I'm so thankful for that. So, you know, when I look at that, it's just a simple song, but that it's so powerful for me.
Right. What would you tell a young person that wants to do this? What kind of advice would you give them?
For any young person, I would tell them, first pray. And after praying, listen to your heart, because this is a very discouraging arena, you know, and I've learned that over these last probably 4 or 5 years. But when you have something that you're very passionate about, even if it's not writing or playwriting or acting, if you have something you're very passionate about, it doesn't matter what everybody else says around you. It's what's in your heart. If you can produce what's in your heart out to the livelihood of somebody else, somebody's going to grab hold to it.
That's great. What's the best advice you ever got, and from who?
My grandmother. She played a very intricate part of my life. I love my parents, you know, dearly, but my grandmother, she always said, and she would call me T-Bird. She said, T-Bird, she said, don't never let anybody tell you that you can't be what God already saw you are.
Tanya E. Randall, thank you so much for coming.
You've
inspired me. I hope you've inspired our community.
Yes.
To reach for your dreams.
Yes.
And it's wonderful. Again, A Real Man's Love in a Woman's World.
Yes.
And that's November 8th at 8 p.m. Hampton's Veteran Memorial Auditorium at the Hampton Middle School.
Yes.
And how can folks get tickets?
They can go to my website.
Okay.
We have tickets available on the website at www.tanyaerandallproductions.com.
Thank you so much for coming.
You are quite welcome. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. This is Juan Castillo. This is the Electric Drum. We will see you next week.